Chances are that President Donald Trump's dramatic statement about his interest in Greenland, along with Canada and the Panama Canal, was primarily directed at one person, Chinese President Xi Jinping. Through both words and actions, Trump sought to send an unmistakable message that he would not allow China to expand its influence over key strategic locations that could compromise national security. In practice, Trump's focus serves as a preemptive move to prevent potential future conflicts resembling the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 or the 1983 invasion of Grenada. It is essential to analyze his motivations and the diverse reactions from both allies and rivals, which provide insight into their views on his newly asserted global leadership. Trump's foreign policy consistently revolves around assessing national interests. Greenland and Iceland have long been critical strategic links in the transatlantic bridge, a region that has held great significance since the country emerged as a transatlantic power during World War I. Greenland, a semi-autonomous Danish territory located between the Arctic Sea and the North Atlantic Ocean, has been geopolitically important to NATO allies since the Cold War. One of the most significant air bases is situated in Thule, on Greenland's northwestern coast, serving as a key defense line against missile threats and submarine activity. With climate change melting sea ice, the Arctic's strategic value is increasing as new shipping routes emerge, shortening passages between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Historically, whenever vital interests have been at stake, swift action has been taken to secure access to Greenland. At the onset of World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt prioritized the island's security as a prerequisite for winning the Battle of the Atlantic 1939 to 1945. The longest continuous military campaign of the war fought over crucial Atlantic sea routes. During the Cold War, naval dominance effectively prevented any serious maritime challenges from the Soviet Union, thus safeguarding the transatlantic bridge. Following the Cold War, fewer threats were perceived to the transatlantic bridge, leading to decreased attention. In 2006, for example, control over the military base in Keflavik, Iceland, was relinquished. However, in response to increased and aggressive Russian submarine activity, NATO forces have recently intensified maritime security operations, deploying forces from both Greenland and Iceland. Additionally, NATO members have grown increasingly concerned about illegal fishing activities in these waters. The rising threats: Russia, China, and the future of Greenland. Several factors explain why Mr. Trump adopted an assertive stance toward Greenland early in his presidency. First, the increasing presence of Russia, China, and Iran in the Western Hemisphere has become more apparent, especially as their activities approach vital strategic points. When the Trump administration took office in 2017, Arctic affairs had received little attention from the previous leadership. Subsequently, the National Security Council, particularly Coast Guard Admiral Doug Fears, highlighted the expanding influence of Russia and China in the Arctic. This led to several initiatives, including Trump's bold suggestion to buy Greenland in 2019. Although no acquisition took place, interest in the region significantly intensified. This was exemplified by the reopening of the consulate in Nuuk, a move spearheaded by Ambassador Carla Sands. Given this history, it is unsurprising that Trump might view Greenland's security as unfinished business upon returning to office in 2025. Notably, discussions last week between Russia and other parties explored potential collaboration on Arctic energy projects, a development with long-term implications for energy, geopolitics, and international cooperation. Second, Greenland is at a crucial juncture domestically as it approaches parliamentary elections in March. A decision may soon be made on whether to proceed with a referendum on independence from Denmark. The territory faces significant economic and social challenges, with one of the lowest per capita disposable incomes in the Arctic, ranking just above Russia and at less than a third of Alaska's. Beyond poverty, Greenland struggles with social issues, particularly among indigenous communities, including inadequate housing, limited access to quality education, and restricted economic opportunities. Furthermore, the territory has become a focal point in the ongoing competition among great powers. Despite Copenhagen's recent commitment to increase security spending there by 2 billion euros, Denmark lacks the financial and military resources to sufficiently ensure Greenland's security amid growing threats. The island now faces a pivotal decision regarding its security and prosperity as President Trump aims to involve his country in the situation. Third, China's advances in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in the Arctic region, have dramatically accelerated during Joe Biden's presidency. This includes the establishment of research stations, an increase in fishing activities, and investments in mining projects in the high north. Trump saw an opportunity to dramatically and publicly address Beijing's actions. It was no coincidence that his attention on Greenland coincided with his statements regarding the Panama Canal, where Chinese companies have significant influence, as well as his actions against fentanyl trafficking linked to Beijing's regime. Through these moves, he was signaling his intent to confront the aggressive behaviors that the Biden administration appeared to overlook, while simultaneously trying to ease tensions between Washington and Beijing. Fourth, the transatlantic bridge remains a critical interest for America, as Europe's security is also a top priority. Early last year, President Trump stated that his country would 100% remain in NATO under his leadership and work for a free and independent Ukraine capable of defending itself, as long as European nations play fair. However, his more recent efforts to negotiate directly with Moscow, fully excluding both Europe and Ukraine, have raised doubts about his earlier commitments. Trump has long emphasized that he expects European allies to strengthen their defense capabilities. Leaders in Greenland appear willing to cooperate with the Trump administration to find an equitable solution. For instance, in January, Greenland's Prime Minister, Mute Egede, stated that the territory is open to strengthening its defense and mining relations with America, but it wishes to do so on its own terms. Global response. The world's reactions to Trump's controversial positions are generally negative. Global media. Many traditional media outlets remain reflexively anti-Trump. This was clear in their quick coverage of his actions and the analysis of factors influencing the situation. Trump skeptics. Many Europeans and Latin Americans, including longtime allies, view President Trump as threatening and disruptive. They see the Greenland controversy as confirmation of their concerns. Critics accuse him of bullying Denmark and behaving like an imperialist, suggesting that his actions and refusal to rule out an American military intervention to take Greenland are similar to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and China's intimidation of Taiwan. Germany and France have warned Trump against attempting to shift borders through force. Unlike during his first term, there is now a noticeable increase in skepticism toward media perceived as anti-Trump and the president's critics in both Europe and Latin America. In Canada, Northern Europe, and Latin America, the president's view that China's activities in the Western Hemisphere could threaten stability resonates with many. Additionally, concerns persist regarding Chinese and Russian efforts in the high north, which could disrupt trade, hinder economic development, undermine security, and encroach on national sovereignty. As a result, these countries are less likely to accept the narratives presented by the media and the opinions of allied nations regarding the potential dangers and destabilizing effects of President Trump's actions. Scenarios likely: collaborative path ahead for Greenland and America. The most probable scenario is that both Greenland and America will reach a mutually agreeable outcome, which would be approved by the American Congress and could receive support in Ottawa if the Canadian elections in March result in a conservative government that aligns with the policies advocated by the Trump administration. It is unlikely that the Greenland issue will cause a significant rift within NATO. Member states recognize the importance of having America as the primary security guarantor. To be clear, Greenland is a territory of NATO member Denmark, and America and other NATO members will need to consider this as developments unfold. Unlikely, no change. The status quo is unlikely, as it would fail to address the long-term needs and concerns of Greenlanders. America could play a key role in both areas. Most importantly, Washington could strengthen the long-term security of Greenlanders, reducing the chances of harmful activities from China or Russia. Least likely, China will outbid America and buy Greenland. The least probable outcome is that China will intervene and outbid America, as the territory is not even up for sale. Beijing has attempted to establish a presence in Greenland, but has not succeeded. Currently, the only direct Chinese presence in Greenland is made up of migrant workers involved in the fishing industry. As for China's involvement in mining and infrastructure projects, most initiatives have either stalled or been abandoned.